A Russian Su-35 pilot closes to visual range with an F-22 Raptor over Syria. He thinks proximity gives him the advantage. He's wrong. In the next 11 minutes, you'll understand why getting close to an F-22 is the last tactical error a fighter pilot makes. The engineering reality behind this mistake reveals everything about modern air combat. The Su-35 is Russia's most advanced operational fighter. Thrust vectoring nozzles, high angle of attack capability. Pilots train their entire careers to dominate close-range dogfights. The aircraft was designed around one philosophy: if you can see your enemy, you can kill your enemy. Russian doctrine banks everything on visual range superiority. But modern air combat isn't fought at visual range anymore. The F-22 was engineered to ensure you never get there. When that Su-35 pilot closed to visual range, roughly 3 to 5 miles, he believed he'd negated the Raptor's stealth advantage. After all, stealth doesn't matter when you're looking directly at the aircraft. What he didn't know is that the F-22 had been tracking him for over 100 miles. The Raptor pilot knew his altitude, his speed, his heading, and his weapons loadout before the Russian pilot even knew an F-22 was in the airspace. This isn't speculation. This is how the engagement geometry works when one aircraft has a radar cross-section of 0.0001 square meters, and the other measures 3 to 5 square meters. The detection range gap doesn't just favor the F-22. It creates a mathematically insurmountable advantage that determins who lives before a single shot is fired. Here's what happens in the minutes before that visual contact. The F-22's AN/APG-77 radar operates in low probability of intercept mode. It's scanning, tracking, and building a complete tactical picture while remaining electronically invisible. The Su-35's N035 Urbis radar is powerful. It can detect large aircraft at 250 miles, but it can't maintain a lock on the F-22's tiny radar signature. The Russian pilot is searching. The American pilot is watching. At 125 miles, the F-22 has a firing solution. The AIM-120D AMRAAM can reach out and touch targets at this range. The engagement could end right here. But visual identification protocols often require closer confirmation in contested airspace. So the Raptor pilot waits. He maintains his lock. He positions himself with energy advantage. Higher altitude, supersonic cruise speed, superior geometry. The Su-35 pilot still doesn't know he's being hunted. At 50 miles, the Russian pilot's radar warning receiver might chirp. Maybe the F-22's radar is frequency hopping, power managing, doing everything possible to avoid detection. Even if the Su-35 systems detect something, they can't establish range, bearing, or targeting data. It's like hearing a whisper in a crowded room and trying to pinpoint exactly where it came from. Now the Su-35 pilot makes his critical error. He closes the distance. He's thinking, stealth doesn't help you in a turning fight. He's thinking, my thrust vectoring gives me post-stall maneuverability your F-22 can't match. He's thinking, I trained for this my entire career. He's thinking about the wrong problem. Here's where the engineering changes everything. The F-22 doesn't need to outturn the Su-35. It doesn't need to point its nose at the target to achieve a kill. The moment that Russian pilot enters visual range, he's not entering a dogfight. He's entering a guaranteed kill zone he doesn't understand. The F-22 pilot is wearing a helmet-mounted display. Every target within sensor range appears on his visor as a projected icon. He doesn't need to maneuver his aircraft to aim. He just needs to look at the target. That's it. Look at the target, designate it, fire. The AIM-9X Sidewinder hanging on the Raptor's rails has 90-degree off-boresight capability. This means the F-22 pilot can point his aircraft in one direction while the missile locks onto a target 90 degrees to the side. The Su-35 pilot can perform the most aggressive post-stall maneuver in his playbook. He can point his nose wherever he wants. It doesn't matter. The AIM-9X doesn't care where the F-22's nose is pointing. Russian R-73 missiles have approximately 60-degree off-boresight capability, impressive for their generation. Not nearly enough against an adversary who doesn't need to point his aircraft at you to kill you. The Su-35 pilot is fighting with doctrine from 1990. The F-22 pilot is operating in 2025. But let's say the Russian pilot somehow evades the first aim 9X. Let's say he defeats the missile through chaff, flares, and aggressive maneuvering. He's burned enormous amounts of fuel. His situational awareness is completely focused on the immediate threat. He's defensive. The F-22 pilot has options the Su-35 doesn't. Supercruise. The F-22 maintains supersonic speeds without afterburners. Dry thrust. Efficient. The Su-35 needs full afterburner to push past Mach 1.5, and it drinks fuel at an obscene rate. When you're burning that much fuel, you can't stay in the fight long. You have minutes, not hours. The F-22 can cruise at Mach 1.8 all day. It dictates every aspect of the engagement. It decides when to close. It decides when to separate. It decides when to re-engage. The Su-35 has no counter to this. None. If the F-22 pilot decides the geometry is wrong, he simply accelerates away. The Russian pilot can't follow. He can try, but he'll be feet dry over friendly territory or ejecting over water when his fuel runs out. The F-22 controls tempo, controls distance, controls the entire kill chain. This is the engineering asymmetry that matters, not thrust vectoring, not post-stall maneuverability, not pilot skill. The F-22 was designed to ensure the Su-35 pilot fights the wrong battle. Even if he's the best pilot in the Russian Air Force, even if his aircraft performs exactly as advertised, he's still solving yesterday's problem. Watch what happens when you combine these advantages. The F-22 tracked the Su-35 from beyond visual range. It maintained a firing solution the entire approach. When the Russian pilot closed to visual range, he entered an environment where the F-22's helmet-mounted display and high off-boresight missiles create an inescapable kill zone. If he somehow survives the initial engagement, the Raptor's supercruise allows it to disengage, reposition, and re-engage with fresh geometry and energy advantage. There is no phase of this encounter where the Su-35 has superiority, not at long range, not at visual range, not in a turning fight, not in a chase. The engineering advantages stack and multiply until the outcome is mathematically predetermined. This is why Russian pilots who intercept F-22s over Syria or international airspace aren't demonstrating strength. They're revealing how little they understand about the aircraft they're facing. Every close encounter is intelligence collection for the United States. Every radar emission, every flight profile, every tactical decision gets recorded and analyzed. The Su-35 pilot thinks he's being aggressive. He's actually being studied. American pilots train against this exact scenario at red flag exercises in Nevada. Aggressor squadrons flying F-16 Juaz with radar reflectors simulate Su-35 signatures. The F-22 pilots practice the same engagement profile over and over. Detect, track, position, kill. They do it until the process is automatic, until there's zero hesitation, until every pilot knows exactly how much margin they have at every range, every altitude, every engagement geometry. Russian pilots don't train against F-22s. They can't. They don't have access to the radar cross-section data. They don't understand the sensor fusion architecture. They don't know what it feels like to be tracked by an AN/APG-77 radar in low probability of intercept mode. They're training to fight an aircraft they've never seen in their own sensors. This is the operational reality that matters. One pilot has trained against your exact aircraft in realistic combat scenarios. The other pilot is flying blind against a threat he's never truly faced. One aircraft was engineered specifically to defeat your capabilities. The other aircraft was built to win a different kind of fight. One pilot has been tracking you for 100 miles. The other pilot just realized you're there. The Su-35 pilot who closes to visual range with an F-22 isn't being brave. He's demonstrating exactly why close combat doesn't favor the aggressive fighter anymore. Modern air dominance isn't about maneuverability or thrust-to-weight ratios or pilot courage. It's about information advantage, sensor fusion, and beyond visual range engagement capability that your adversary cannot counter. When you understand the engineering, you understand why getting close to an F-22 is a tactical error that ends careers, if the pilot is lucky enough to survive it. The Raptor was designed to win the fight before you know the fight exists. Russian doctrine hasn't adapted to this reality, and until it does, every intercept is just another data point proving the same engineering truth. Stealth plus sensors plus supercruise creates an advantage you can't overcome by flying closer. Next time you see footage of a Russian fighter intercepting an F-22, you'll know exactly what's really happening. One pilot thinks he's demonstrating capability. The other pilot is deciding whether the rules of engagement allow him to end it.